Hi, my name is Emily Ross. I am the Work Incentive Planning and Assistance Program Manager for Disability Rights Oregon Plan for Work. I have been with Disability Rights Oregon Plan for Work for 5 years now. I just had my 5th year anniversary, and I just recently, January 1st, took on the role of the program manager. So that's a little bit of my background. I am a 49-year-old white woman with red hair colored up in a bun. And I'm wearing a crimson colored button-up shirt in a yellow room with bookshelves. It's my office, and my 2 dogs are sitting behind me in their crate. So if there is dog noises, I apologize. I'm trying to keep them quiet. So let me go ahead and present some material for you. Oh, I should also let you know, sorry. I haven't done this in a little while. I am a former Social Security disability recipient. I was born with a genetic eye condition called aniridia, which means that I have underdeveloped irises in each eye. So I have no protection from the light. And there's also visual damage, which causes me to be statutorily blind. I received Social Security disability starting in 2011. And I worked myself off of my Social Security disability benefit in 2017. It was a choice that I was ready to make for myself, but I have been through the process through all the stages that I will talk about in the presentation. So let me pull up the screen. And slideshow. Oops, there we go. Okay, so presentation is about working well on Social Security disability-based benefits.
And Emily,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. We're getting a request, if you don't mind, just slowing down your speech just a little bit for the people in the Spanish track. No,
sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So our objectives today are to learn about benefits counseling available through Plan for Work or our WIPA program, a basic overview of how employment affects Social Security disability-based benefits, and a brief discussion of special Social Security benefit issues affecting transition-age youth. So Plan for Work is one of 74 work incentive planning and assistance or WIPA projects in the US, its territories, and District of Columbia, providing no-cost benefits planning services. Our goal is to enable Social Security disability beneficiaries to make informed decisions about work by helping them understand how work may impact benefits and to support them in making a successful transition to financial independence. So we work with any individuals who is 14 years old to retirement age, that was receiving a Social Security disability-based benefit and currently working or seriously considering work. And they live in Oregon or in 10 counties in Washington, which include Benton, Clark, Cowlitz, Franklin, Klickitat, Lewis, Pacific, Skamania, Waukegan, and Walla Walla. So the first step is to know which kind of benefit you are getting. So Social Security disability benefits are paid through 2 basic programs, SSI or Supplemental Security Income, or what's called Title 16, or a Title II disability benefit, often referred to as simply as disability or SSDI. These 2 programs are completely different and treat earned income in 2 very different ways. Some individuals can get both types of benefits, and that's very important to know. And in those situations, it's very important to consider benefits counseling, well, in all circumstances, but especially in those, because there's 2 different benefits to take into account. So with the Title II benefit, typically, if this age group, we'll be dealing with people that either have an SSDI-based benefit based on their own work record, or a Social Security childhood disability benefit based on a parent's work record. And so in that situation, that's going to be based on a work record that is either by the individual or by a family, the parent. The benefits are based on taxes paid through work to the FICA system. And when we're talking about those benefits, we're going to be focusing in on talking to beneficiaries about their trial work period, extended period of eligibility, expedited reinstatement, and other work incentives that are available. Sorry, I'll slow down. Other work incentives that could be available to them. The other benefit would be SSI, or supplemental security income. And in this situation, this is a needs-based benefit because there is no work record to base the benefit on. And in this situation, there's a resource limit of $2,000 for individuals and $3,000 for couples. The federal benefit rate this year, because this number does change every year, is $841 per month. And then that number can change based on different circumstances, but it's going to be the highest it's going to be is $841. Some work incentives that can apply to an SSI beneficiary would be a general income exclusion, an earned income exclusion, a student earned income exclusion, which could also apply to this group specifically, impairment related work expenses, blind work expenses, expedited reinstatement, 1619B, and a plan to achieve self-support or a PASS. So with Social Security disability benefits and work, paid employment and Social Security disability benefits don't have to be mutually exclusive. And it's possible to work even full-time and keep Medicaid and or Medicare in almost every case. It's possible to work and come out ahead financially, even if benefits are reduced or ceased. And it's possible to get benefits back again if lost due to employment. So now I want to focus a little bit on Social Security disability benefit. Social Security disability benefits. The work incentives consist of phases of employment, with each phase being a different level of protection from the loss of benefits, and it provides ways to get the benefits back if needed. And again, those phases we include the trial work period, the extended period of eligibility, there's the grace period, and the extended period of Medicare coverage. With that Title II benefit, or the Social Security disability insurance or childhood disability benefit, the value of work is compared to the annual guideline for substantial gainful activity to determine continued eligibility. As long as countable earnings remain under the current SGA guidelines or substantial gainful activity, the cash benefit may continue. Special work incentives can apply to reduce gross earnings down to a countable income level. So the substantial gainful activity amount for 2022 is $1,300 gross earnings per month for non-blind individuals and $2,260 per month for blind individuals. And so this amount, the substantial gainful activity, is determined by Social Security and is based on many factors, not just the earnings from work. And there's no gradual reduction when we're looking at a Social Security disability-based benefit or a childhood disability-based benefit. There's no gradual reduction. You either get the benefit or you don't. So with the trial work period, we're looking at, there's 9 trial work period months. And these are months in which you can earn as much as you want to earn and still keep your SSDI benefit check. This year, to have a month actually count as being a trial work period month, you have to have gross earnings of $970 or more in a month, or if you're self-employed, 80 hours of work per month. Also for substantial gainful activity, again, that's going to be $1,350 for a non-blind individual and $2,260 for a blind individual this year. With the extended period of eligibility, when you're past the trial work period and you've used all 9 of your trial work period months, you go into the extended period of eligibility. There is a 3-year window in which, if the earnings are below substantial gainful activity, you can continue receiving your SSDI check. If you're above, you don't. It's an over-under situation, but there's no termination in phase 2. The benefit would just pause. And then there are work incentives that can apply during that period of time, again, that we could look at. Also, after that, you would go into the second part of phase 2, or what we call phase 3, which is the post-extended period of eligibility, in which you can still continue to have your SSDI benefit if your earnings remain below the substantial gainful activity amount. But in that phase 3, if your earnings go above substantial gainful activity, your benefit could terminate, but you're still attached to Social Security through a work incentive called expedited reinstatement. And we can talk more about that in the future if necessary.
Emily, this
Yeah.
is Emily Harris. I'm going to have you pause for just a moment while we have interpreters switch in the Spanish. Thank you. Sounds like there's a technical difficulty, so they're getting the microphone unmuted. So thanks for your patience, everyone, and thanks for your patience, Emily, with the interruption.
This gives everyone a chance to look this up.
Yes, you're right. This is a lot of good information. Just waiting for the confirmation. Okay, and Brandy asks, and is there a part one to this? I feel so lost. So right now, this is the kickoff night. So you're in the right place, and it is a lot of information. And then the second part, we're going to cover some additional resources. So if you have any questions as they're coming through, keep them tallied, and we'll keep reading them. Okay, I think we have the green light to keep going, Emily. And if you, just keep pacing. We'll. Thanks for rolling.
No problem. So someone did mention that this is confusing, and that it is true. This is all confusing material, and I understand that. We are here at Plan for Work to help out with understanding this as you go. So if there are questions, you can please feel free and contact us. If not during tonight answering questions, you can always contact me at the office. This is just a chart that will be in the PowerPoint that you have available to you for you to go over to. That it breaks down phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, so you can look it over. But the most important thing to know is that beneficiaries who haven't used any of their trial work period months yet, haven't used any of the work incentives, may keep their full payment of SSDI or CDB, as Social Security Disability Insurance or Childhood Disability Benefit, for a minimum of 12 months after they go to work, with no matter how much they are earning. And these work incentives are, again, very complex, and it's important to get benefits counseling when you get to the point of wanting to start working. So we're going to go on to the supplemental security income. I will take questions on what we went through quickly if anyone has any questions.
Emily, this is Emily Harris.
Yes.
It looks like the only question, so there's a couple. The questions are regarding the slides, and if you didn't receive the slides, we'll send them out to people. So check your spam just in case you missed it, and we can send them out if you still don't see it. We'll make sure you get a copy of those. And then there is a question that came through. My 18-year-old son is working part-time and is a full-time student. Will his SSI be affected when he graduates?
We can definitely, we're going to go into SSI, so I can definitely answer that within the next part of the slides, if that's okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. So supplemental security income. So, well, how much? Oh, there we go. Going the wrong direction. So SSI, the amount of SSI payment is affected by a number of different things. It can be affected by the earned income, wages, the net earnings from self-employment, and in-kind items in lieu of pay. That's not as normal for us to see, but it can affect the SSI. Unearned income, that would be, for example, if someone was to just give you money on a regular basis, like a stipend, or if someone was also receiving SSDI, that could be considered unearned income. In-kind support and maintenance, or ISM, Full-ism results in 1/3 reduction of SSI base rate, which this right now is $280.34 this year. That is if a child is living with you over the age of 18, receiving SSI and doesn't pay rent. And Social Security knows that they will reduce the SSI amount by that $280.34 for what they call that in-kind support and maintenance. Or if and it can also be reduced by an overpayment recovery. How Social Security calculates the SSI payment when the beneficiary is working. When the beneficiary is working, they basically have a calculation which first looks at unearned income. If there is any unearned income, they count that first, and then they look at the earned income, those wages from work or self-employment. When Social Security is calculating a person's SSI payment, they first exclude the first $20 of any money coming in, earned, unearned, or earned. First $20 does not count. They get to pocket that first 20. And that's called a general income exclusion. Then if the individual is working, they want to reward that as well. So they exclude the next $65 of any earned income, and that's called an earned income exclusion. And then they divide the remainder of those earnings in half. So when we usually do a calculation sheet, this is kind of what we use to calculate what the SSI benefit check will be after certain things taken into account. So basically how it would be, as an example, would be if Mary is getting $841 in SSI and she goes to work for the first time as a courtesy clerk and earns gross monthly wages of $1,200. And she has no unearned income. So first you look at the $1,200, you subtract the first 20 because that first $20 of any money doesn't count, and that's a general income exclusion. Then the next $65 doesn't count, and that's an earned income exclusion. So that leaves us with a remainder of $1,115. You divide that by 2, and you get $557.50. So we subtract the $557.50 from that $841 of the SSI federal benefit rate, and you get a remainder of $283.50. And that would be what the SSI benefit check will end up being after she has that $1,200 of earnings from work. But if you also look at the fact that she has that $1,200 of earnings from work, and you add on that $283.50 of the SSI benefit check, that's a monthly amount of $1,483.50, which is a lot more than $841. So you can't lose by working. So again, this would be how we would look at another example of how we would break that down in terms of looking at, you're always going to have more money working than not working, regardless of whether it's $1,200 a month or $1,624 a month. There's always going to be more money working than not working. So what happens when a beneficiary has both earned and unearned income? Again, we'd be looking at if the person has let's say they have $763 in unearned income for SSDI. We subtract the first $20 from that and we get $743. Then there's still the $1,200 of gross earnings from work that Mary has. Oh, sorry, Joe. We're looking at Joe now, that Joe has. So then we would subtract the $65 from this $1,200 and we get $1,135. We divide that by 2, and that leaves us with $567.50. We add that to the $743, and that leaves us with $1,310.50. That amount is going to be greater than the federal benefit rate of $841. So Joe won't get an SSI benefit check, but Joe would then be eligible for SSI based on what we call 1619B protection, because his earnings went to 0 due to earnings from work. So we'd still have SSI, but it would be based on 1619B protection. There'd be no benefit check. But then Joe would also have a full month of earnings of $1,963, which is greater than the $861 he would have been getting. And again, we're going to talk about the 1619B. So 1619B happens when you have SSI benefit check that is going to be zero due to earnings from work. You're eligible for this based on this. Also protects your Medicaid status because you're of that 1619B protection, and that lasts as long as you are below the 1619B threshold. This year in Washington State, the 1619B threshold is $46,000, $46,925 annual earnings in the state of Washington. You must still be disabled. You must meet Medicaid's need and use test, and you must meet all the other requirements that would keep you eligible for SSI, with including your limits on unearned income and resources. If for some reason the person was not going to qualify, if they exceeded the 1619B threshold and we couldn't get them a specialized threshold, there's also the eligibility for Apple Healthcare for workers with disabilities. You'd be eligible for this if your earnings were greater than the $46,925 per year. This allows you to earn more and keep eligibility for long-term care and supports, and you would be paying a premium based on your income. Okay, so so one of the big work incentives that I want to talk about is the student earned income exclusion, because when trans people are still attending school and they're working and they're receiving SSI, there's a portion of money, if they're under the age of 22 and regularly attending school, Social Security does not count up to $2,040 of earned income per month when calculating the SSI payment amount. And they will also exclude up to that $8,230 per year. So there is a cap on the student earned income exclusion. But during that time when they are able to apply the student earned income exclusion, the SSI benefit will stay at that $841. So this is how it would look. With the SSI based on the earned income only with the application of student earned income exclusion. If Jillian works at Safeway as a courtesy clerk and earns gross wages of $1,000 per month, she has no unearned income. So she earns $1,000, but she has the student earned income exclusion available. If we apply that, there's no countable earning that's applied when figuring out how much she's eligible for in her SSI benefit check. So she would still get the $841 of the federal benefit rate for her SSI, plus she'd have her gross income of $1,000, which would give her $1,841. And she would use $1,000 of her student earned income exclusion, and she would have $7,230 left for the rest of the year to use.
Emily,
yeah.
While you're transitioning, this is Emily Harris again.
Yeah.
If you don't mind just slowing down a little bit, I know
Sure.
It's a lot of content, and thank you for going over it. And we just got a request from one of the interpreters, so thank you.
No problem. I'm sorry. Impairment-related work expenses is something else that we could use to apply when factoring what your the SSI benefit check would be. So some individuals may have out-of-pocket expenses for items or services they need in order to be able to work. So the purpose of this impairment-related work expense, or IRWE, is to enable recipients of SSI to recover some of the costs of their expenses incurred as a result of their disability to support their work. Deducting the cost of the impairment-related items and services from monthly gross wages increases the SSI cash payment. So some examples of what could be an IRWE would be prescriptions or co-payments for medications, medical costs, assisted transportation, costs for adaptive devices or automobiles, work-related equipment, job coaching that's paid for, and these are paid for by the individual themselves, and it's not being reimbursed by anybody else. Durable medical equipment, prosthetic devices, and attendant care. The other thing to look at would be if an individual is blind, there would be blind work expenses. Social Security has special rules for SSI beneficiaries who have statutory blindness. Any earned income which a blind person uses to pay for items needed to earn the income is not counted in determining SSI eligibility or the SSI payment amount. Expenses do not need to be related to a person's blindness. And this is the other example in impairment-related work expenses, they have to be related to the disability. In the situation for blind work expenses, they don't need to be related to the blindness. Some blind work expenses examples for would be service animal expenses, transportation to and from work, federal, state, and local income taxes, Social Security taxes, attendant care services, visual and sensory aids, translation of materials into Braille, professional association fees, and union dues. The result is generally a smaller deduction from the beneficiary's SSI payment when working. This is another big one. This one's pretty complicated, and it takes some, but it can also pay off well if there is a goal that that the beneficiary would like to achieve, and that would be the plan to achieve self-support or a PASS. It allows a beneficiary to set aside income and or resources for a specific period of time to pay for expenses associated with reaching a vocational goal. So the beneficiary would need to outline the steps to they plan to take the items and services they expect to need. If the plan is approved, Social Security may allow the beneficiary to set aside funds such as unearned income, countable earnings, or resources to help achieve the goal. Since the funds will not be counted, a PASS may allow the individual to become eligible for SSI and Medicaid, or it may increase the amount of the SSI benefit payment. So the PASS requirements are they have to be submitted on a specific SSA form, which is SSA Form 545. They need to identify reasonable and feasible occupational goal, definable timeline with steps, identify resources and amounts of income to be set aside, detail all planned expenditures and justify major purchases. They need to initial the PASS. The initial PASS will be for no more than 18 months. And this needs to lead to substantial gainful activity level employment or significantly reduced SSI. ABLE accounts. This is a very important thing because most beneficiaries are going to have a resource limit. The ABLE accounts or Achieving a Better Life Experience account provides an option for certain individuals with disabilities to save money for disability-related expenses while simultaneously maintaining eligibility for crucial public benefits. So in this account, which is an electronic bank, you can set aside up to $16,000 a year. The beneficiary or anybody else in their life can put into the accounts up to $16,000 a year. The money deposited by other people and investment gains are not counted as income to the beneficiary for federal tax purposes or federally funded needs-based benefits. Money in the ABLE account is excluded from resource limits for federally needed needs-based programs such as Medicaid, Supplemental SSI, and SNAP. It allows for more choices and control over spending on qualified disability expenses. So you can go to Washington ABLE Savings Plan at washingtonstateable.com, or you can go to the ABLE National Resource Center or ablenrc.org for more information, or we can talk a little more about it in the question and answer portion. The other way to save some money would be an individual development account. The IDA is a matching funds program to help low-income households save money for specific goals, such as home ownership or home repair, small business startup, assistive technology, and post-secondary education. The earned income is saved on a regular basis in a specific account, a special account, and when you reach the goal, the IDA program matches funds. It's usually about $3 for every dollar you save. Age 18 redetermination, this can be another big sticking point. The review process that applies to all individuals who have been receiving SSI prior to 18, at the age of 18, and usually between the ages of 18 and 19, there is usually a redetermination from being the SSI based on being a disabled child to becoming a disabled adult. This can be connected. It's performed because the childhood definition of disability is different from the more stringent adult standard. Just so you know, approximately 45% of SSI recipients are initially found ineligible to continue SSI benefits after the age 18. There are ways to for you to appeal the decision if you were to get a decision that said that they were no longer disabled. If the beneficiary is found eligible, payments are due. If found ineligible, I think there's a typo there, I apologize. If found ineligible, payments are due for 2 more months beyond the month in which the disability determination was made. The determination is not retroactive to the 18th birthday. I do apologize, that is a typo, and I will get that fixed for the next one, and I can send that to Emily to send out to people. Did not see that till just now. A transition age student may be employed due to redetermination during the redetermination process and still be found eligible for SSI under the adult rules as long as the disability standard and all other SSI eligibility criteria are met. So when the age 18 redetermination comes up, you can provide the most important things to do are to provide basic information to the families. And the family will need to gather information that contributes to the medical review, gathering information about the individual's future ability to earn income through paid employment, developing a contingency plan if the potential loss of SSI benefits and Medicaid exists, planning for loss of other benefits that are tied to the SSI benefit, and determining whether eligibility can be established for a Section 301 status. The redetermination process can be really complicated, and if you need help from a benefits planner, it's good to find that assistance. The Section 301 continuation benefit, it allows people who are actively pursuing work-related goals to keep their SSI and Medicaid even when Social Security has decided that they are not disabled under the adult standard. This can help students who are on an individualized education plan or an IEP who are participating in a vocational employment program keep their SSI benefits even if they are no longer considered disabled under the Social Security standard after the age of 18. So the important things to remember from all of this is that work is possible and beneficial. Get benefits planning before you begin working or as soon as you get the job offer. Report work and wages and earnings to Social Security, and keep earning documentation and any correspondence from Social Security. Turning 18 can create lots of changes in Social Security disability benefit status for transition age youth. And here in the contact information for myself and Disability Rights Oregon, what you would want to do to get benefits planning and assistance, it would be to call the Ticket to Work helpline at 1-866-968-7842. And our contact information is here, and you can always email us if you have questions. And that is it for me.
Emily, thank you for this information. There are some questions that have come through, so yeah. I'll read those out, and then just the last one in terms of the contact information, putting that in the chat. We can paste that in there as well, so yeah. No problem on that. I think between Beth and I, we can add that. Let's
happy to answer any questions.
So the first question is, does Washington have IDA, or is that just in Oregon?
So they have in Washington State as well, and I think Dan might be able to provide some resources to that, and if not, I can find some for you.
Excellent. And then for the person who asked for your research or the resource information, Emily, to be put in the chat, just a heads up that our second speaker tonight, Dan Rutten, is going to be sharing some additional information about how to access benefits planning and other resources as well. Let's see. Okay, is the amount of benefit calculated per month if an individual has seasonal employment and they earn, say, $1,500 over the 2 months? Would they receive Social Security income for months they were not employed?
So if it's SSI and they were receiving $1,500 a month, they would do that calculation of the $20 for the general income exclusion, the $65 from the earned income exclusion, and then divide the remainder by 2, and then the SSI benefit check would be that amount that was the reduction. And I don't have my calculator in front of me right now, but there would be with that amount there I'll slow down. With that amount of earnings, there would still be an SSI benefit check. I just can't tell you the exact amount right now. And there's always a 2-month lag. So while they were doing the seasonal employment, they may find that they're getting their full SSI benefit check and the full income, and then the reduction will happen later. And so they would want to be prepared for that. And then as long as they're continuing to report their earnings and the fact that the job had ended, then the SSI benefit check would go back up to the full amount. If it's SSDI or that childhood disability benefit that they're working and earning the $1,500 a month, if they're in their trial work period, they would use trial work period months and continue to receive that SSDI benefit check, and just use trial work period months.
Thank you. And another question that came through is, would Social Security or SSI contact me on redetermination, or am I supposed to reach out?
They contact you. They'll send you a letter.
And then Dan has jumped in to answer a question in the chat that I'm going to read aloud in case other people had this question as well and you're not tracking the chat. Stephanie, your question is the amount of benefit calculated per month? Oh, so sorry, everyone. I'm tracking these live and they're moving quickly. So Dan just jumped in to add, and Dan Rutten, I don't know if you want to read your answer out loud, because you could probably read.
Sure, I'm happy. Let me see if I can get my camera going here. Yeah, and Emily Ross already touched on part of this, but I had just put in the chat over here that if you're on SSI, the way that those wages get, or the SSI check amount gets determined, is really when you're working is based around your reporting. And so each month you'll report those wages to Social Security, and that's what they're going to create that calculation that Emily was talking about off of. And so if you're working and you are earning $1,500 a month, there's a possibility that you're one way we like to talk about how that SSI check gets calculated is a quick and dirty way to think about it is for every $1 you, or every $2 you earn, $1 comes off of that SSI check. That is not an exact formula. There's a lot that goes into the actual calculation, but that's one way you can think about it. But you can have that SSI check go down to 0 and then go up the next month, or go down a little bit and then come back up the next month. So you'll see those SSI checks fluctuate as the wages that you earn go up and down. So it's not uncommon for those SSI checks to be a different amount each month if you have variable hours. But as Emily had talked about as well, if you're receiving SSDI or a childhood disability benefit and you get those checks, they're usually a pretty static rate. And that's sometimes one way you can tell those two benefits apart, by the amount that you're getting each month too. So hopefully that's helpful.
And it is important to make sure, sorry, this is Emily Ross again. It is important to report your earnings every month, especially if you're SSI. Like I said, there is that 2-month look back. You're always paid the month after you're due the money. So you're always going to it's always going to be catching up to you. And just be aware that that's going to happen, and you're going to get letters every month saying your new amount's going to be, your new amount's going to be. And that first time you're going to, within the first few months, you're going to get a letter saying we've overpaid you, and you don't freak out because it's going to happen. You're always going to get an overpayment check, but it's nothing bad. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just the nature of the beast. And just know that if you're working, they're going to want some of that money back.
So this is Emily Harris again. There's another question that came through. It says, my child will graduate high school this year. Will this program and your assistance be available to our family?
Yes. We could find that if he wants to, if he's still attending school or attending college classes, since he's under the age of 22, that student earned income exclusion may apply. And so there might be a period of time where he won't have any of his earnings decreasing that SSI benefit amount. So yes, short answer, yes, they can contact us. They can contact the Ticket to Work helpline. We're always happy to help out.
Thank you, Emily. And there's some chat going on about all the acronyms, and they can be daunting and scary. And good news, there's some resources that Dan will be providing where you can get some additional information and guides to the key to the acronym. So thanks everyone for your questions. There was another question that came through. How long after your adult child has been working can you apply for SSDI?
Well, there is a thing called quarters of coverage, which when you're paying FICA taxes, you're paying into the Social Security disability or the Social Security fund. So I would say if they start working, you may want to contact Social Security and find out how many quarters of coverage they need in order to become SSDI insured, and how many quarters of coverage they have currently. You could earn 4 quarters of coverage in a year based on those earnings. And but if they're working and they're earning above substantial gainful activity, that's another acronym. So SGA, if they're working above $1,350 this year, it is likely they unless there's work incentives, they might not be eligible for an SSDI benefit because of the earnings from work.
Yeah, and to add to what Emily, this is Dan again, to add to what Emily Ross was saying there as well about those quarters of coverage. One place, I'm going to put this link into the chat, and it's also in one of the handouts that will go out with all of the other ones. But Social Security has a section of their website called My SSA or My Social Security. And if you create an account for that beneficiary, or if the beneficiary creates an account for themselves on My SSA, oftentimes that's where you can see they've got some of those records in there, and it will show you both for retirement aged and disability benefit access where you're at in that process as well. And so that My SSA account might be a great starting point for folks who are going to be working, so you can track what that looks like along the way too.
And the good news is the younger you are, the fewer quarters of coverage you need.
Great, thank you both. And there's just a few more questions that have come through the chat, and then we'll be at a good spot to take a pause and do a short break, and then we'll commence again. But I'll do the last couple of questions that came through. Let's see, so as a transition teacher, I have students who say they may not work more than 15 hours a week because they will lose their SSI and Medicaid. It sounds like they may not understand their benefits. They may keep their Medicaid. So it's a question, and also kind of looking for a confirmation there.
Yes, that is a misconception that's out there. I'll lose everything, and no, that's especially with SSI. In my opinion, with SSI, there's a lot of room to grow and learn and try things out and not lose your SSI benefit due to work.
Okay, excellent. And there's just a logistical question. So typically in the past, for those of you who have been to this wonderful event, there's usually 2 nights, a part 1 and a part 2 that dives deeper. So this year we only have one session on Social Security, which is the part 1 is Emily Ross, and the part 2 will be Dan with BenefitU coming up after the break. And if you're missing the part 2, please give us that information in the survey that we'll send out at the end, because we value all of your feedback, and thanks for being flexible. For those of you who know a different way to do this topic. And great question. And then one other thing I'm wondering if either of our guests can address is, it sounds like in terms of reporting information, people asked, do I need to mail stuff in? Do I do it online? Is there a website? And there's some chat around a app. So I'm wondering if people, Emily or Dan, can speak to that. Thank you.
So there are a few different ways that you can report. You can send it in to the Social Security office. You can go onto my Social Security account and report that way. The mobile app is available. For both the mobile app and reporting online, you'll want to make sure you talk to the Social Security office first, because they need to have the employer identification number in the system. So I've had a lot of people in the past try to report through the mobile app, but they haven't told Social Security, so nothing's happening. So if you want to use any of those choices, or the telephone reporting system as well, you'll want to contact Social Security and talk to them about how can I report my income, and if you have the employer identification number, be able to provide that to them.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Dan.
and I think, I was just going to say, this is Dan again. One more thing to add on as a yes and with Emily Ross's suggestions there. One thing that I know that some of my colleagues always encourage is tracking when you're reporting, especially if you're sending by mail. Sending something certified mail is helpful if possible, just because you want to be able to back up any information that's submitted to Social Security whenever possible. And I know some people are very comfortable submitting by mail without doing that, or don't keep a lot of records around those submissions. But it's always nice if an issue does come up, if you've got good records that track, this is the date that I sent it, either here's the email, or having some sort of paper trail that you can follow to those as well.
And I will, this is Emily again, I will add on to that. Since you have, if the beneficiary is an SSI beneficiary, you can ask for a receipt anytime you talk to Social Security, and I do encourage it. So anytime you're talking to a Social Security rep through the office, you can ask for a receipt of the conversation.
Everyone, we are just about at the hour. So we're going to take a short break. If you have questions that you didn't get a chance to get answered live, feel free to put them in the QA section, or you can put them in the chat and we'll monitor those. I'm going to repost the clock. I'm going to repost the clock hour link for educators that are here and need that link and you didn't get a chance to see that. We will return. We're going to give you a 7-minute break to round us out after at the 5 minute past the hour. So we'll return at 7:05 and be joined by Dan Rutten for more information. Enjoy your break, refresh your water, stretch your body, and thank you so much, Emily, for all of this useful information.
No problem. Thank you.
Hi, Dan. Welcome. Hi, folks. We're going to get started again. We'll give a minute for our interpreters to get back. And we hope you had a lovely break, and I'll pass the ball over to you, Dan. Take it away.
Great. Are we good with the interpreters? I just want to make sure before I move forward.
Yep, we're good to go.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name's Dan Rutten. I work for WISE, and I get the privilege of being a part of our new project, which is BenefitU. Before I start jumping in and talking a little bit about the program and what we offer, just a quick visual description. I'm a white male in my 40s with dark glasses and a short beard that's kind of, I guess, salt and peppery. And I have a blurry background around me right now, but I'm wearing a black and gray checkered shirt. So thank you, everybody. I hope you're all having a really nice evening, and I'm excited to be able to follow Emily Ross's presentation and great information around benefits. I think one of the things that becomes very quickly apparent is that when you get started in your journey of learning about benefits, it can feel like a lot. It can feel really overwhelming, and you're not sure exactly what you're looking at times, and that can be quite an experience to go through as you're navigating everything else that's going on into your daily life, and possibly with your loved ones or other folks that you're supporting as well. And so tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about BenefitU. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And tell you a bit about what we do and what we offer for folks within our community. So let me just make sure I'm clicking the right way. And just so you know, I won't have the chat up necessarily, but I will pause throughout just in case there are things that come in the chat as I move along. But BenefitU is a new program, as I mentioned, that started about a year ago. We opened our doors in March of 2020 to try to help meet the need in the gaps that were available for benefit planning services around the state of Washington. There were a number of partners out there, Plan for Work, Plan to Work, DVR, as well as some other organizations that I'll share resources for later, who are offering some planning, but it didn't always reach everybody who was looking for those services. And so we were able to start this program in partnership with the Developmental Disabilities Administration to be able to start to bridge some of that gap and make sure that people are able to get good information about their benefits and get support if things come up. And so BenefitU, right now, we've got a couple of different wings, and I'll get into those two pieces, one being our website, where we've got a lot of resources. I'll take you on a test drive of that this evening, as well as our individualized benefit planning services that are available to folks who are eligible. But I think one of the big things that comes up is why would I want to dip my toes into understanding this topic that feels at times really complex and really overwhelming? And I think the immediate answer is, don't worry, it gets easier. And the more that you start to understand benefits, and even just being able to keep straight things like, okay, what is SSI and what is SSDI? They both sound very similar. So how do I keep those things straight, and how do I know what I get? As you start to be able to build your knowledge around those things and understanding what you receive and the rules that apply specifically to those, we start to really uncover a lot of the myths that are out there and getting good information and understanding it. One of it came up this evening where I believe someone said that they were a teacher and they have a lot of students that are staying under 15 hours a week because they're afraid of losing their benefits. And that's a really big concern, because oftentimes when people say that, it's not just their cash benefit that they're worried about losing. It's also those Medicaid benefits that we know are, or maybe we don't know at this point. Your Medicaid benefits are tied to things like employment supports, long-term or the in-home supports, respite, care. A lot of those services that are provided through BDA are paid through Medicaid dollars, which are a part of your Social Security benefit or a part of your benefits that many folks receive. And so making sure that you understand not only what benefit you receive and kind of those thresholds, but how you can work within those is really important. Because the better you understand them, you can work with your benefits rather than feeling like they're pushing up against you and restricting the opportunities that are there for you or someone that you're supporting or a loved one that you're advocating for as well. And learning about those benefits, once you start to get that stable ground, you also start to get a peek into some of those other things that Emily had mentioned. And I think, I'm not sure how many folks are teachers. I didn't see the results of the polls, but teachers or parents of folks who are in transition program, there's that really great work incentive called the student earned income exclusion that Emily had talked about that really allow you to maximize that benefit. So not only can they earn, but if they're in school, they can actually earn more. Because they really want to encourage people to have that career growth and employment experience growth while they're in those student roles, because those carry forward as a person moves along into adulthood and with those experiences. So learning about your benefits helps you work within the benefits. It helps clarify terminology. And then it also helps raise some awareness around what resources are available. Emily had talked a little bit about ABLE accounts. There's also the DD endowment trust funds that are available. And some people will say, man, Social Security or SSI is such a drag. I can't earn more, or I can't have more than $2,000 in the bank. Well, that's true, and it's not true. If it's a standard bank account, that's absolutely correct. But it's kind of a myth at the same time, because these other accounts are there. And if you put money into those accounts, then you can have more than that $2,000 resource limit. So there's a lot of ins and outs that as you start to get familiar with your situation, you can start to feel a little more comfortable in what's going on in those. So there's a lot of reasons to step into that gray and sometimes scary territory of learning about your benefits. Emily talked a bit about some of these earlier, so I won't spend too much time on each of these describing which excuse me, tongue-tied, it's getting a little late in the evening, which benefits are which, but I think these terminologies will start to become familiar to you. For most folks, SSI is often the first benefit, especially if your loved one or you are a person who experiences a developmental disability. SSI might be a benefit that you're able to tap into early, and it's a needs-based program. And so Emily was showing a lot of those calculations. And like I said, as you earn more, that SSI check goes down a bit, and vice versa if those hours shift. Where SSDI, that's all based off of your work history. So if you don't have a work history, you're probably not going to get an SSDI benefit. Now, if you have a parent who is drawing on their own Social Security through retirement, or you have a parent that is passed away or deceased, or you have a parent who has a disability and receives Social Security benefits because of that disability, even if the child is an adult, they may be eligible for a childhood disability benefit. And so sometimes I think one of the things that becomes true as we talk to more and more people is that the big thing is, one, each one of these benefits has their own sets of rules to them. And so we want to be clear on what we get, but kind of in tandem with that, it's not uncommon that people come to us and say, I get a benefit, but I have no idea which one it is. And so working with a benefits planner, we can request reports from Social Security, we can look at your situation, and we can help clarify some of those things, which I think clears the water quite a bit for a lot of people, because then they at least know which information they need to be looking up. And it gets a little tricky because people can have more than one benefit. You can have an SSI benefit, you can have an SSDI benefit, you can have a childhood disability benefit, all at the same time. And then then you've got to learn a little bit more about the rules for each of those. That's not extremely common, but it can happen. So you can have dual benefits. And oftentimes when we're thinking about these, SSI is often, we pair that with Medicaid quite a bit. And then SSDI, or the childhood disability benefits, which Emily had mentioned, we also call those Title II benefits. Those are tied to Medicare a lot of the time. And so getting clear on those, and if you know you get Medicare, that might help you figure out which cash benefit you get. Or if you get Medicaid, it might help you identify some of those pieces as well. And so getting clear on your benefits can really be helpful with that. And one of the places that we're really putting some time and energy into this year and with our current content is our website. And so the website, I just want to clarify that it's Benefit, no S on there. It's not BenefitsU, it's Benefit. Some people will try to go to the other site and you don't get to us that way. But we have a lot of resources. We have training, not training videos, but just kind of walkthroughs of different pieces of each benefit and how those work. And so we'll head over there in just a minute, but this is a great place. I've seen a lot of people saying, man, this is a lot of information. Is there a place that I can refer back to, or some place that I can get maybe some information that feels like a little bit more of a starting point at times? And I think Emily's information was awesome starting point information, but you're right, it's a lot. And so the great thing about what we offer on the website is that you can access it when you want it and when you need it. And so those things, we start to get into those work incentives, the difference between those benefits, as well as those saving strategies. So I'm going to pull up the website really quick and just show you. This is the BenefitU website here, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just to make sure folks can see it. But when you come here, this is the main landing page. You'll recognize this image from the slide. Where you'll most likely want to go, or if you're an advocate, a teacher, or a service provider, where you might want to direct families to, is benefit information for individuals and families. So when you go in here and you click in, you can see that we've got these broken down by section. Tonight, I'll just very quickly go into the cash benefits and medical benefits just to show you very quickly what's there and how to find some things. But under cash benefits, we have some walkthroughs. One, an overview of Social Security. This is great if you're a beginner and you're like, I need the most 101 thing I can find. This is going to be a great starting place for where you're at. It's an 8-minute video. It's going to give you some basic information. Just know that there's going to be places in there where on screen it shows 2021 numbers, but we try to put the annual updates in there. So if they're not there now, they will be there shortly. But then as you scroll down, you'll see we've got a section here all about SSI. So if you're someone who receives SSI or has a loved one or someone that you work on behalf of who receives SSI, this might be a great place to land for a little bit. With the videos, you've got this drop-down menu. So we've got the overview and introduction. We get into a lot of the different elements of each benefit. As you go through here, you can see impairment-related work expenses, which Emily talked about, the past plans, the student earned income exclusion. All of these, we've got some content on our site. And if it's helpful and you need a refresher, you come back tomorrow and you're like, man, Emily said this thing and I can't quite remember what it was. This would be a great place to pop over to, watch it. You can see they range from about 5 minutes to right around 13, 14 minutes for each topic. So just know this little arrow on the side, there's a drop-down menu there. And one thing I need to confirm, I'm not sure if these are translated into Spanish. I will need to see about that and see where we have those. And Emily Harris, if I'm able to confirm those in a location, I will send that to you to make sure that that gets distributed out to anybody who needs that. So, so there's some basic information here on SSI. Also, for people who were wondering, well, how does that SSI get calculated? We've got a great, really fun animated video that our colleagues, Susan Harrell and Scott Leonard, had put together. And it follows Buck, who is BenefitU's mascot here, the little dollar. And they go through, how do those SSI calculations work? And that can be really helpful in setting a baseline for folks that's new to. And then you can see over on the side as well, we've got some updated information and handouts around numbers and figures related to SSI, some information about job loss, and then this similar content down here for the SSDI, or that childhood disability benefits. So know that under cash benefits, there's a great amount of information here, and we're going to continue to build this and develop what's here. So as time goes on, if you've watched it all, still come back. There's going to be new content that comes your way under that. And so again, under medical benefits, it's going to be the same structure, but we start to look at things like, okay, Medicaid and Medicare, what are the difference? How do they connect? What are the timelines? A lot of that gets covered in these videos here. And so we dive into quite a bit. And I think that this will be, for those of you, I know I'm being a little repetitive, for those of you who are newer to benefits, or folks who just want a refresher or make sure that they've got current information because it does change, this is a great place to come and start checking some things out. So our website is an excellent source of information. I think it's just going to continue to get better as we go. We're going to come back to this site in just a minute, but the website is a piece of it. And the other element that I had mentioned is that we also offer individualized benefit planning services. And there's other organizations around the state who do this depending on what benefit you receive and what your priority is. But our services are available to anyone who's a Washington State resident and 14 and older, and currently receiving services through DDA. And that includes folks who are on the DDA no paid services list. So maybe you're not connected with employment services or community inclusion services, but you've been approved for DDA services. That absolutely counts as far as eligibility goes. And one of the really nice things about how our services are set up is that you don't have to get a referral. There were some other options for folks who received services from DDA as adults to get some benefit planning, but they did require a referral to get that support. So this is going to take us right back over to the website. Under that benefit planning service and eligibility, let's see if it takes us right to it. If you come over here, and this is all the way down at that bottom of that drop-down menu, service eligibility and intake scheduling, you scroll down, you'll see new customers. You click here, return if you've been a customer of BenefitU and you've got more questions. And that's the great thing, is that we're a place that we really want people to be able to come to, get some answers, and then be able to come back as situations change. And so you come here, you'll click. This is going to take you to a booking tool. If you do not need language interpretation, you would schedule this 60-minute meeting up here at the top. If you do need a language interpreter, we add an extra 30 minutes onto that intake meeting because we want to make sure that we have the time to have those conversations and make sure that what you're saying and what we're saying is getting across in the right way. But you would just click whichever option works for you, and then it's going to populate a calendar, and sometimes it takes a second, but where you can select based on available time slots, the day and the time that you would like to schedule for an intake. So you'll select the day, you'll select the time, provide a little bit of information, and that's going to get you rolling. And so once you do that, our call center, which right now I oversee our call center, if you schedule an intake, you'll be talking with me. We'll send you just some brief intake forms. They take maybe a total of 15 minutes to complete, and they can all be done digitally. So it's a pretty easy process. And then after we do our call center intake, we'll check in with our planners as far as capacity and give you a timeline for getting connected with benefit planners. One of the big questions that comes up is, well, okay, that's great. What can a benefit planner through BenefitU support me with? And it really spans the gamut. Anytime a situation comes up where maybe there's a change, that can be, you got a new job, you got a raise, you're getting married, you're having a kid, any situation in your life where there's a change, and it can go the other way as well, right? You lose a job, you potentially have an overpayment from Social Security and you need support with those things. Those are things that benefit planners can help support. One thing we really want to encourage is not only that people use the resources on the website and kind of check that out to see if your answer is there, if it's a general question, but at the same time, think of benefits planning kind of like you would financial planning. That if you're thinking proactively about it, and Emily brought this up as well, come as a job is getting established, right before you're going to start a job, before you're going to get married. You want to figure out how those are going to impact your benefits before those things happen, rather than realizing the difference that's going to be made after the fact. Because you might want to adjust some things, you might want to try to tap into some different elements or work incentives that are available through your benefits. And that proactive approach, I think, helps keep people out of those sticky situations and getting those letters that can feel overwhelming and kind of scary from Social Security. So there's lots of different things that our planners can assist with. And just know that everybody's situation is a little bit different. Sometimes people think, well, I've just got a really quick question. Can I talk to somebody? Do you really need to collect all of this information? I had mentioned this in my response in the chat. One of the most complex things about Social Security is that everybody's unique situation and their life's makeup really impacts the answer. There's not always a clean, can I do this, can't I do that, without getting all of the details first. And so that's one of the things that a benefits planner will do. In the intake call, we're going to spend time collecting a little bit of information. I generally am asking about what benefits do you get, medical, do you get benefits through work? Do you have things like a 401k account? Because those sorts of things potentially count as income when you're thinking about those SSI resource limits. Sometimes those 401ks, if you're vested and you can pull on that, those are the sorts of things that people don't always realize. And so calling and saying, hey, my son or daughter got a new job and there's the possibility that they can open a 401k account. How is that going to impact their benefits? Those sorts of questions are really helpful to tackle up front. And you might not know to ask them necessarily, but I think always thinking, what would my benefits do? WWBD on that, and thinking, could this potentially impact my benefits? And if you think maybe, it might not be a bad idea to talk to a benefits planner. So there's lots of things we can do there and support people with. And the good news is that we do get folks who come to us, but they don't necessarily meet our eligibility criteria. One of the things that we try to do is have a no wrong door approach. And what I mean by that is, if you schedule an intake, you're not sure if you qualify, but you know what, you're going to give it a try and see what we can figure out. If we determine you're not eligible, we will try to, as best as possible, have a bit of a warm handoff, or at least get you pointed in the right direction to one of the other entities throughout the state that can help support you if we're not able to. And so some of those resources are DVR, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, foundational community supports. There's both Plan for Work, which is Emily, who comes to us from Plan for Work. You can see that they represent the lower part of the state in Washington. And then there's also Plan to Work, which represents the rest of the state that isn't covered by the Plan for Work folks. And then if you've got questions related to Medicare specifically, there's an excellent group called the Statewide Health Insurance Benefit Advisors, or SHIBA. And they're volunteer staff that is able to help tackle some of those Medicare questions that come up for people. And so my presentation is a little short. I see we're right at 7:30, but I wanted to really just spend most of my time making sure that people are aware that we know benefits are very complex and there's a lot going on, and that we're a resource that's available to folks, and that, you know, thinking proactively, thinking about, okay, that first job's coming up, or a change in job, or a change in relationship, or maybe even your loved one or yourself are moving into a new situation. You're going to start paying rent. All of those things start to impact your benefits. And so thinking about, where can I find my support? We just want to make sure that, you know, we're out here and we're available. And so if there's things that would be helpful to talk about, I will just skip ahead. This is my information here. Email is going to be the best way to reach out to me if it's not just a direct scheduling for a website or through the website. I do want to mention that we realize that not everybody has access to the internet, and that not everybody, you know, is comfortable with technology. We do our best to accommodate those things where we can. Right now, our services are all done remotely because our planners are in different parts of the state. And so we're serving the whole part of the state. And so it's not generally possible to do that in-person benefit planning. But if we need to come up with, you know, things are typically done over Zoom. But if we need to do a phone call, if we need to figure out, is there a partner or another agency or service provider who might be able to host the internet connection for you so you can log on for your meetings? There's a variety of ways that we can try to support as best as possible. And then, of course, we're always willing to make disability-related accommodations to make things work for people as well. So that's my baseline of content here. I'm going to stop sharing and just check in and see if there's questions in the chat or other things that might be helpful to cover.
So Dan, this is Emily Ross. I did notice that someone also mentioned in the chat that the Plan to Work and Plan for Work descriptions are transposed.
Oh, shoot. Thank you so much.
So I'm not sure who in the chat had said that, but yeah, I don't know who in the chat had mentioned that, but they were correct.
Good catch. And that, Emily, you and we're familiar with this stuff, and we mix them up from time to time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those things can be confused. Thank you for the catch. I will make the adjustment in the content.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Emily. There was a couple other questions that came through, and I'm hoping you can answer these live. And I don't know if the second question is in response to that information, and it might be answered after that is switched. We can send that out as well, Dan. But there's a question around, sorry, the questions are really in. Okay, so Plan for Work does not support Southwest Washington. Slide says except for southern counties. With that information,
yeah. So Plan for Work, my organization, Disability Rights Oregon Plan for Work, we serve all of Oregon and the 10 southern counties in Washington State, including Lewis County as well.
Thanks for the clarification. couple other questions, and Dan and Emily, I invite you both to tag team on these. So if my son currently receives DDA and has the IFS waiver, is he receiving Medicaid?
Receiving services from DDA,
Likely.
yes. The IFS is a waiver, which is a Medicaid service.
Yeah.
So waivers are all funded through Medicaid. Yeah.
Usually if we see a waiver, it's likely they're receiving Medicaid services.
Yeah.
Great. Love an easy question, right?
Yeah.
The next question is, does the benefits planning also cover planning for changes from a parent retiring?
Yeah.
Yes.
In our services, because that's a potential change in benefit situations. Because when that parent retires, if that parent has paid enough into Social Security, and that their child, even an adult child, if they meet those qualifications, they then may be eligible to receive benefits off of their parent's record. And so that would be a great time to talk to a benefits planner, because you may become eligible for more benefits.
Yeah, and it can change the whole perspective of how you're looking at it. In that situation, we would usually want to know the name and Social Security number of the parent whose work record we'd be looking at. Because we need to get that. Social Security sometimes doesn't make the connection. And so we need to give them a heads up that this is happening.
Great, thank you both so much. Let's see, and I apologize if this one was answered already, but this one is in regards to a 17-year-old child, and the family is asking, how early should we make an appointment? Should we wait until she's 18?
If they're working, as soon as possible. If they're working and receiving a Social Security benefit, then benefits planning is important. If they're not receiving a Social Security benefit and they're looking to get Social Security benefits, they'll want to wait till they're 18 to apply to Social Security.
Yeah, that's similar to what I was going to say, that if there's not any burning questions around a benefit that's being accessed, or if there's not a benefit being accessed yet, you may wait until that age 18, because things will change a little bit. But know that people can apply for SSI, very young. You can apply for those benefits. And so, if you've got a child who is younger, but may qualify for benefits, I'll put a link in the chat here, but let's see here. Oops, I'll just go right in here. You can apply for SSI benefits online. Let's see, I want to make sure this is going to everybody, but here's a link right here. And on the main Social Security page, there's some links that will hopefully get you connected to some of those things. But yeah, I think it would depend on your situation. Like Emily said, if they're working, if there's something you're curious about and they're working, I think that's a great time. If you feel like everything's going okay, it's really up to you as far as what you're looking to learn. And so I think my next question would be, if you were reaching out to me directly on this, I would say, well, what is it that you're curious about in this situation? And then we would go from there.
Thank you both. And there's two more questions that came through. The first one is, we have an autistic child whose grandmother would like to leave an inheritance to all the grandkids. Can BenefitU help figure out how to do this so she doesn't lose her Medicaid?
Yeah, and so this kind of starts to step into the gray area a little bit, because what BenefitU can support is helping you to understand some of the rules and kind of how inheritances impact a person's benefits, Medicaid, SSI, those sorts of things. There may be some legal aspects of those that you want to explore. And we typically don't get into the legal end of things. And so we would, that's something that we would say that would be great this is a piece that would be great to talk to a lawyer about, but we can definitely help with getting the ball rolling and understanding some of those rules around that. There just might need to be a third party that helps establish some of those things if that need be.
Thanks, Dan. And the last question that I see that came through is, will my son be covered until he is 21 years old and is still in high school by SEIE? Or does he have to be continuing higher education each year?
He needs to be going to school to continue. It's part of the description is a student who's earning income. So he would need to be attending school. It doesn't even mean he's attending school full time. He just has to be actively going to school and working at the same time. And so it's up to the age of 22. So he could be 21 in 11 months and he's still eligible for that student earned income exclusion.
Yeah, and I dropped a link. This is just on the Social Security website, but I know it's helpful getting a direct link to things sometimes that explains that student earned income exclusion. But it's one of the coolest work incentives out there, just because of how much it allows a person to maintain of their income and their benefits. So definitely lean into it if it's a situation where it applies to you.